It's interesting talking about the sort of the newer songs versus the older ones. Still, it is the meat and potatoes for people at your concerts and a lot of your longtime fans. But Priya Gupta in Burr Ridge, Illinois, asks if you ever get tired of hearing or singing your most famous songs.
No, I don't. If I always said this, and I'll quote myself, that the day that it becomes nostalgia, or that this was the reunion tour, I'd walk away. As long as we were growing and growing up, I would continue to want to do this. So as much as I truly do enjoy playing Living on a Prayer and Wanted Dead or Alive at night, I wouldn't feel as good about performing them every night if I didn't write Who Says You Can't Go Home and have a #1 single just on the last album. I really wouldn't want to just talk about yesterday. It would be it'd be difficult.
One thing that folks wrote in a lot about too was the balancing of the life that you've had. Dina Little in Petal, Mississippi wants to know how you can balance your family along with demands of your very public career. Do you have a much opportunity to do dad things with your children?
I try. It's not always easy. In the last week, and this is 7 days, I was in New York, Venezuela, Tobago, Colombia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming.
Wow.
And that's in the last week. I came home yesterday at 4 in the morning and was obviously delirious, and this morning had to get up to take my son to the dentist. Needless to say, I overslept, and graciously my wife said, I had to let you sleep, you needed your rest. But I did jolt up out of the bed today thinking, gotta get to the dentist. So I try. Tomorrow I've got to take one to a doctor.
Wow.
I try. And then Thursday I'm back to being, rock star.
Somebody said here that he's about to get married himself, and given the long and sort of successful marriage that you've had, if you had any piece of advice for him.
Find an independent woman who loves you for you, and then be your best friend.
So it's all in the choice then.
I got it right the first time. I was very, very, very lucky.
Lisa Sidney in Maple Grove, Minnesota, says that you mention faith a lot in your songs. What is your own spiritual life like, and what religious concepts are important for you to pass on to others?
Well, I'm very open-minded when it comes to religion, and I think that I find more strength in faith than I do in what is termed organized religion. And without getting into too many of the specifics, I think that there were a lot of great wise men who once walked the face of this earth, and we could learn from all of them or one of them, however you determine, is your spiritual leader. But do unto others as you would have done unto you, and be kind to everyone and anything, everyone and everything. And I think that, that karma train will get you through.
So Living on a Prayer is non-denominational then?
It most certainly is.
Right.
Most certainly is.
I think that ties in with your social causes that people also pointed out a lot in submitting questions. Deborah Leitner in Riverdale, New Jersey, said that you should be an example for all the celebrities with the ways that you help those who cannot help themselves. If you had the ability to cure any one social ill, what would it be and why?
In this, the richest country in the history of the world, I think that our not addressing poverty domestically is the one issue that I would really like to point the finger at.
And what are some ways that people can get involved, you think, to help that?
Well, community service as it pertains to affordable housing in the case that I'm really focused on, or if it's outreach programs that are sometimes not as active as they can be because of government cuts. There's volunteerism in your community is something that really is rewarding. And I find that it has given me more personal satisfaction than any accolade that my profession brings me. Because you never know, the people that you're helping may be the next leaders of the free world. And it's always great to be able to give someone the opportunity to have a hand up.
William Riecken in Nara, Japan, asks if you are politically active as well, and if so, how do you feel about the current administration, and do you plan any new songs about the subject?
I think I've spoken my piece with Have a Nice Day, and if there was any lesson that I ultimately learned, regardless of my personal politics, was that the day after the last election in this country, everyone in this nation needed to get over the fact that there were the red and the blue states, and we needed to try to become purple and try to represent ourselves as Americans and as a caring people who not only cared for others but for each other in our own country. And, the idea of politics isn't an easy one on either side of the aisle, and regardless of whose platform you support, I find I can get a lot more done personally through philanthropy than I can stumping for either side of the aisle. So I'm trying to be more open-minded to being purple.
Gotcha. A lot of folks did write back about not necessarily even stumping publicly, but taking Al Gore aside and maybe whispering a little something in his ear about running.
There's a long line now. I may have been the first one on it, but there's a long line behind me of people trying to say the same thing. And look, I God knows I was there, So, but we'll see what happens.
Right. The question from Chattanooga here by Debbie Dodson is it true that you now drive an energy-efficient car after all those great sports cars you've had?
I've had a couple, but I certainly do. We have the Toyota Hybrid, amongst other cars, and it's all part of the learning curve. But our most recent purchase was, in fact, the Toyota Hybrid.
So you and Al Gore have that in common.
Well, yeah.
Among other things.
Among other things, yeah.
All right. Someone has asked here out of actually Northern Ireland, if you could write your own headstone, what would it read?
Never bored, never boring.
Right. I like that. That's very short. I think that would actually fit. Closer to home in Brooklyn, New York, Peter Walk asks, what do you think of the many Bon Jovi tribute bands? My son-in-law is the drummer in one.
Well, I think that they're a great compliment. They're a huge compliment. And once I can start getting them to do interviews for me, they'd really serve the purpose.
That is our next interview subject, the Bon Jovi lookalike. All right. Are you a fan of YouTube is another reader's question. She says she really enjoys looking for Bon Jovi concert footage on YouTube. Are you sort of along with that phenomenon, or are you worried about copyright? No.
I actually enjoy it. And I wish I could navigate it as well as my teenagers. But I'm just as enamored as anyone else is with YouTube.